The galaxy had been at peace for 12,000 years. 400 different alien species lived under the rule of the Covenant of Civilized Worlds. They believed they knew everything about the stars. They thought they had found every intelligent species. They were wrong. Captain Ryan Brooks sat in the command chair of the UHSV Defiant. The ship floated in empty space, invisible to every sensor in the galaxy. Human technology made this possible. While the aliens used simple cloaking devices that could be detected, human ships bent light itself around their hulls. To the galaxy, the Defiant did not exist. Ryan had commanded the Defiant for 5 years. In that time, he had watched the aliens from the shadows. He knew their languages, their politics, and their secrets. The Defiant was one of 60 human ships doing the same work across the galaxy. For 17 years, humanity had watched and waited. Lieutenant Kate Morrison worked at the tactical station. She was 28 years old and had spent her entire career on stealth ships. She had never spoken to an alien. None of them had. Humanity had a rule. Watch, but do not contact. Learn, but do not reveal. The galaxy was dangerous, and Earth wanted to be ready before stepping into the light. Commander Frank Hayes stood beside Ryan's chair. He was the executive officer, second in command. Frank was older, 45, and he remembered when humans first discovered faster-than-light travel. He remembered the debates on Earth about what to do next. Some wanted to announce humanity to the galaxy. Others wanted to hide. The cautious voices won. The Defiant orbited near a space station called Korath Prime. The station belonged to the Velkin Collective, a trading alliance that controlled much of the galaxy's commerce. Thousands of aliens lived on the station. Ships came and went constantly. The Defiant recorded everything, sending data back to Earth through quantum communications that could not be intercepted. Kate checked her sensors. Something was happening. A fleet of warships had just appeared on the edge of the system. She recognized the design. Zathari Dominion. The Zathari were the galaxy's strongest military power. They had 10,000 warships and ruled through fear. "Captain, we have incoming," Kate said. "Zathari Battle Group, 20 ships including 1 dreadnought." Ryan studied the display. The Zathari were not supposed to be here. Korath Prime was neutral territory. He pulled up the communication channels and listened. The Zathari commander was Supreme Admiral Krathnos, a warrior with a reputation for brutality. Krathnos was running a military exercise. His ships moved into formation, testing new weapons systems. The admiral wanted to see how much damage his fleet could do to empty space. He picked a random sector and gave the order to fire. The problem was that the sector was not empty. The Defiant was there, invisible but very real. And beyond the Defiant, in the line of fire, were 3 civilian stations housing over 5,000 Velkin families. Frank saw it first. "Captain, those plasma charges will hit the stations. The Velkin shields cannot stop weapons that powerful." Ryan made a decision in 2 seconds. The mission said to stay hidden. The mission said to never reveal themselves. But the mission did not say to watch thousands of innocent people die when he could prevent it. "Decloak the ship," Ryan ordered. "Shields to maximum power. Move us between the Zathari fleet and those stations." Kate's fingers moved across her console. "Are you sure, Captain? If we decloak, everyone will know we exist." "I'm sure. Do it now." The Defiant dropped its cloak. One moment there was empty space. The next moment, a ship appeared out of nowhere. The vessel was larger than a Zathari cruiser, but smaller than their dreadnought. Its design was unlike anything in the galaxy. Smooth lines, no visible weapons, and a hull that seemed to absorb light. The Zathari fired their plasma barrage. Massive bolts of superheated energy crossed the distance in seconds. They hit the Defiant's shields and stopped. The human shields flared bright blue, spreading the impact across the entire field. Not a single bolt got through. On the Zathari flagship, Admiral Krathnos stared at his screens in shock. His sensors had shown nothing. Now they showed a ship that should not exist, a ship that had just survived a barrage that could destroy battlecruisers. Ryan opened a communication channel. He knew the Zathari would hear him. So would everyone else in the system. Hundreds of ships, thousands of listening posts. This message would spread across the galaxy in hours. "This is Captain Ryan Brooks of the United Human Space Vessel Defiant," he said. His voice was calm and clear. "You will cease fire immediately. Those civilian stations are under our protection." Silence filled the channel. Then chaos erupted. Every ship in the system started broadcasting questions. What was a human? Where did this ship come from? How did it appear from nowhere? Admiral Krathnos recovered quickly. "Unknown vessel, you are in violation of sovereign space. Identify yourself and explain your presence." "We have been present in this galaxy for 80 years, Ryan replied. "We have watched you from the shadows. Now we are stepping into the light. You fired on civilians. That is unacceptable." The Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He had 4 eyes and 6 arms, typical for Zathari. His expression showed anger and confusion. "You claim to have been here for 80 years? Impossible. Our sensors would have detected you." "Your sensors are inadequate," Ryan said simply. "We have technology you do not understand. We have capabilities you cannot match. And we will not tolerate attacks on innocent people." Kate spoke quietly. "Captain, we are receiving communication requests from every major power. The Council of Elders is demanding we identify ourselves. The Velkin want to thank us. This is going to spread fast." Frank added, "Earth is requesting an immediate situation report. They want to know what happened." Ryan knew what he had done. 17 years of careful observation, gone in an instant. The secret was out. Humanity's existence was now known to the entire galaxy. The question was what would happen next. Admiral Krathnos made his decision. "This matter will be brought before the Council of Elders. You will come to Sanctum and explain yourselves. The Covenant does not tolerate unauthorized presence in civilized space." "We will send a representative," Ryan agreed. "But understand this, Admiral. We are not asking for permission to exist. We are informing you that we do exist. There is a difference." The Zathari fleet held position. They did not fire again. Ryan suspected they were afraid. They had thrown their best weapons at the Defiant and accomplished nothing. Now they had to report this to their leaders. The Defiant began moving away from Korath Prime. Ryan need 3 days after the incident at Korath Prime. Every major government in the galaxy knew about humanity. The Council of Elders called an emergency meeting on their capital world, Sanctum. They wanted answers. They wanted control. They were used to getting what they demanded. High Counselor Vrendas was ancient even by galactic standards. His species had founded the Covenant 12,000 years ago. He had seen hundreds of new species join the Covenant. All of them had submitted to Council authority. He expected humans to do the same. Supreme Admiral Krathnos stood before the Council, explaining what happened at Korath Prime. He described how the human ship appeared from nowhere, how it withstood weapons that should have destroyed it, how its captain spoke with confidence that bordered on insult. "They must be brought under control," Krathnos said. "They violated our space without permission. They have technology that threatens the balance of power. The Council must act." Ambassador Gregory Palmer arrived at Sanctum aboard a human diplomatic ship. The UHSV Horizon made no attempt to hide. It flew straight to Sanctum, broadcasting its identity clearly. Every sensor in the system locked onto it, trying to understand how it worked. The Horizon confused the alien engineers. Its power source gave off readings they had never seen before. Its hull was made of materials their databases did not recognize, and it moved through space faster than should be possible with known technology. Greg Palmer walked into the council chambers with 2 security officers. Lieutenant Danny Cooper and Sergeant Helen Price flanked him, carrying weapons that looked simple, but made the council guards nervous. Greg was 50 years old, a career diplomat who had trained for this moment his entire life. The chamber was massive. Representatives from 400 species sat in circular rows, all looking down at the central floor where Greg stood. The High Counselor sat at the highest point, a position designed to show his superiority. "You represent an unknown species," Vrendas began. His voice was cold. "Your presence in civilized space is unauthorized. Explain how you have violated our laws." Greg smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "We have been in your space for 80 years, Counselor. We have watched your wars. We have recorded your trade agreements. We know your secrets. We understand your politics better than most of your own members do." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Species shouted questions and accusations. How could unknown ships have operated undetected for so long? What right did humans have to spy on the Covenant? Greg waited for the noise to die down. Then he activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above him, dozens of locations across the galaxy. Human observation posts positioned near military bases, trade hubs, and government centers. "We chose not to reveal ourselves until we were ready," Greg continued. "We studied your civilization. We learned that the Covenant operates on power and intimidation. The strong dominate the weak. We wanted no part of that system until we could negotiate from strength." Counselor Thexva of the Velkin Collective stood up. The Velkin were merchants and traders, more practical than most species. "You speak of strength, but what strength can one species have? The Covenant includes 400 worlds. We have fought and defeated countless threats." "You have fought species weaker than yourselves," Greg replied. "You have never fought anyone who was truly prepared for you." Admiral Krathnos could not contain himself. "The Zathari Dominion commands 10,000 warships. We have conquered half the galaxy. What can you possibly offer against such might?" Greg's expression hardened. "You are asking the wrong question, Admiral. You should be asking what we have been doing while we watched you for 80 years. He changed the holographic display. New images appeared, star charts showing human territory, hundreds of colonies, industrial worlds producing ships and weapons, military installations scattered across dozens of systems. The council members stared in shock. The scale was enormous. While they had been focused on their own politics, humanity had expanded across a region of space larger than some Covenant empires. They had built an infrastructure that rivaled the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. "We did not just watch," Greg said. "We built, we grew, we prepared. And now we are ready to take our place in the galaxy as equals, not subjects." High Counselor Vrendas leaned forward. His voice carried absolute authority. "You will submit to council jurisdiction. You will reduce your military forces to acceptable levels. You will open your territory to council inspections. These are not requests. They are requirements for all civilized species." Greg gathered his papers. "The answer is no, to all of it." Silence fell across the chamber. No one refused the council. No species had ever stood before them and simply said, "No." "We will not submit to external authority," Greg continued. "We will not reduce our defenses. We will not allow foreign inspections of our territory. We are offering to establish diplomatic relations as equals. Accept that offer or reject it. But we will not be dictated to." Vrendas felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. This human was not bluffing. He genuinely believed his species could defy the entire Covenant. "You are making a grave mistake," the High Counselor said. "The Covenant has maintained order for 12,000 years. We have crushed every species that challenged our authority. You are small. You are new. You will submit, or you will be destroyed." Greg turned to face the entire council. "You have spent 12,000 years believing you ruled the galaxy. You ruled what you could see. We have been in the dark all along. Now we are stepping into the light. What happens next is your choice, not ours." He walked toward the exit. Danny and Helen followed, their hands near their weapons. The council guards tensed, but did not move. No one wanted to start a fight in the council chamber. Vrendas gave his ultimatum. "You have 30 days to comply with council requirements. If you do not, we will impose economic sanctions. If you resist those sanctions, we will consider military action. Choose wisely, human." Greg paused at the door. "We have chosen. Now you must choose. Do you want peace with a powerful neighbor, or do you want war with an enemy you do not understand?" He left the chamber. The council erupted in debate the moment he was gone. Some species urged caution. The Velkin pointed out that humanity had obviously prepared for this confrontation. Going to war with a prepared enemy was foolish, but other species demanded action. The Zathari wanted revenge for being embarrassed at Korath Prime. The Dracor Union, a militant alliance, saw humanity as a threat that needed to be eliminated before it grew stronger. Vrendas made his decision. He had ruled the council for 300 years. He had seen challenges come and go. He believed humanity could be intimidated like every other species before them. The vote was close, but it passed. The council authorized economic sanctions against human space. Any ship entering or leaving human territory would be seized. Any species trading with humans would face penalties. The galaxy would isolate humanity until they submitted. Admiral Krathnos smiled. He knew economic sanctions were just the beginning. Once they failed, the council would authorize military action. And then the Zathari would show these arrogant humans what real power looked like. The sanctions began immediately. Covenant ships took up positions around known human space. They stopped any vessel trying to cross the border. Trade routes were cut. Communication channels were blocked. Humanity's response came within hours. Ambassador Palmer broadcast a message across every Covenant channel. His words were simple and direct. "The Council has chosen economic warfare. This will fail. We are completely self-sufficient. We do not need your trade. We do not need your resources. We have everything we require within our own territory. These sanctions hurt you more than they hurt us." He paused, letting that sink in. "But sanctions are not an act of war. We will not respond with military force. Not yet. We will give the Council time to reconsider. 30 days. The same time frame you gave us. After that, if the sanctions continue, we will take action to protect our interests." The 30 days passed slowly. The council waited for humanity to break. Admiral Krathnos positioned his fleets at 3 different entry points to human space. He had 600 ships in the first fleet alone. 2 more fleets waited behind him, ready to join if needed. The Zathari admiral believed he understood war. His species had fought for 10,000 years. They had conquered 200 worlds. Their battle tactics were taught at every military academy in the galaxy. He thought humans were amateurs playing at war. On day 31, Krathnos gave the order. The first fleet entered human space at a colony world called New Seattle. Fleet Admiral Raxivor commanded the assault. He expected token resistance. Maybe a few patrol ships that would run when they saw his numbers. What he found was Commander Lisa Grant and the 4th Human Defense Fleet. Lisa commanded the UHSV Valiant from the captain's chair. She was 35 years old and had spent 15 years in the human navy. She had trained for this battle her entire career. Around her ship, 40 other human vessels took up defensive positions. Raxivor saw the human numbers and laughed. 40 ships against 600. This would not even qualify as a real battle. He opened a communication channel. "Human vessels, you are outnumbered 15 to 1. Surrender now and you will be treated well. Resist and you will be destroyed." Lisa's response was cold. "You have entered United Human Space without authorization. Leave immediately or face destruction." Raxivor thought she was insane. He ordered his fleet to open fire. 600 ships unleashed their plasma cannons simultaneously. The barrage could have destroyed a small moon. The human shields held. Every ship in Lisa's fleet absorbed the impact without taking damage. The Zathari had never encountered shields that strong. Their weapons should have broken through easily. Lisa gave her own order. "All ships, return fire. Show them what real weapons look like." The human fleet fired back. Their weapons were nothing like the energy beams and plasma cannons the galaxy used. Railguns launched projectiles at incredible speeds. Quantum torpedoes phased through normal shields. Directed energy weapons cut through armor like it was paper. Zathari ships began exploding. One moment they were there, the next they were debris. Raxivor watched in horror as his fleet died around him. His ships could not penetrate human shields. But human weapons tore through Zathari defenses with ease. Lisa's tactical officer reported kills. 20 enemy ships destroyed, 30 disabled. They are breaking formation. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, the Zathari First Fleet was gone. 590 ships destroyed. Only 10 escaped, including Raxvor's flagship. The admiral jumped away, carrying news of the disaster back to Covenant space. Lisa opened a channel to the retreating ships. "Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them humanity will defend itself. Tell them to choose peace while they still can." News of the defeat shocked the galaxy. The Zathari Dominion had lost 600 ships to a force 1/10 their size. Council analysts studied the fragmentary data, trying to understand how it was possible. They found no answers. Human technology was simply superior. Admiral Krathnos refused to accept defeat. He sent the Second Fleet, 900 ships strong, to a different human colony, Armstrong's world. This time they would not underestimate the humans. This time they would win through overwhelming force. Captain Jack Turner commanded the defense of Armstrong's world. He had fewer ships than Lisa, only 30 vessels. But he had something better. He had prepared the battlefield. The Zathari Second Fleet jumped in, expecting a fight. Fleet Admiral Vexnar had learned from Raxivor's mistake. He came in with shields at maximum and weapons ready. He would not give the humans first strike. What he did not know was that Jack had spent 2 weeks placing his ships in precise positions. Using careful calculations, he had created overlapping fields of fire. The Zathari fleet jumped directly into a trap. Human ships opened fire from 4 different directions simultaneously. The Zathari found themselves in a kill zone with no escape. Vexnar tried to maneuver his fleet, but everywhere he turned, human weapons were waiting. The battle was even shorter than the first one. 25 minutes. The Zathari Second Fleet was destroyed. Vexnar, seeing his ships die, made a choice that saved his life. He broadcast an unconditional surrender. Jack accepted. He ordered his ships to cease fire. The surviving Zathari vessels, barely 90 ships from the original 900, were escorted to neutral space and released. Jack sent a message with them. "Tell the Council we do not want war, but we will defend ourselves. Choose peace before more lives are lost." The defeats sent shockwaves through the Covenant. The Zathari had lost 1,500 ships in 2 battles. Species that had feared Zathari power began to question whether that fear was justified. Admiral Krathnos was beyond reason. Rage consumed him. He demanded the Council authorize a full invasion. He would gather every Zathari ship, plus allies from other species. He would crush humanity completely. The Council debated for 3 days. High Counselor Vrendas knew they had miscalculated. Humanity was not weak, but backing down now would destroy the Council's authority. If they appeared weak, the entire Covenant could collapse. Pride won over wisdom. The Council authorized military action. 7 species joined the Zathari. Together they assembled over 15,000 warships. It would be the largest invasion force in galactic history. Admiral Stephen Clark commanded the United Human Defense Forces. He was humanity's top military officer, a strategist who had spent decades planning for this exact scenario. When he learned about the invasion force, he was not surprised. He had expected it. Stephen broadcast a message across every Covenant channel. His voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel. "You have chosen war. We did not want this, but we will end it. Every species participating in this invasion will face consequences beyond military defeat. You will learn what happens when you attack a species that prepared for this day." The invasion force assembled at the edge of human space. Krathnos divided his fleet into 5 groups. Each would strike a different human world simultaneously. This would force the humans to split their forces. No matter how good their technology was, they could not be everywhere at once. The humans were ready. What the Covenant did not know was that humanity had spent 80 years building more than ships. They had created a defensive network spanning their entire territory. Sensor arrays that could detect ships light years away, automated weapons platforms, mine fields that could destroy whole fleets, fortress stations positioned at strategic points. The Battle of the 5 Fronts began on the same day across 5 different systems. Covenant ships jumped in, expecting to find colonies and civilian targets. Instead, they found prepared defenses and waiting human fleets. At New Portland, Admiral Krathnos himself led the assault. He had 3,000 ships. He faced 200 human vessels and a fortress station that could match 100 more. The battle was brutal. Krathnos threw his ships forward in waves, trying to overwhelm the defenses through sheer numbers. Human weapons cut them down. Automated platforms fired missiles that tracked individual targets. The fortress station's main gun could destroy a heavy cruiser with a single shot. Krathnos kept fighting. He had to win. Defeat was not an option, but his fleet was dying. After 3 hours of combat, he had lost 2,000 ships and gained nothing. At New Victoria, the Dracor Union fleet tried a different approach. They used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and jumping away before the humans could respond. It did not work. Human sensors tracked them through their jumps. Human ships followed them and destroyed them in deep space. At Riverside, the combined Velaric and Kreshnar fleets attempted to negotiate even as they attacked. They thought they could convince local human commanders to surrender. They were wrong. The Human Defense Coordinator, Captain Amy Ross, ignored their communications and focused on destroying their ships. The battle raged for 6 days, across all 5 fronts. The Covenant fleet commanders had never faced an enemy like this. Human tactics were perfect. Their coordination was flawless. They used quantum communications that could not be jammed or intercepted. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was and what it was doing. On day 6, the Covenant forces began a general retreat. They had lost over 12,000 ships. The survivors limped back to Covenant space, battered and defeated. Admiral Krathnos died during the final engagement at New Portland. His flagship took a direct hit from a quantum torpedo. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. The defeat changed everything. For 12,000 years, the Covenant had maintained control through military dominance. Species obeyed because they feared Covenant power. Now that power was broken. Now they knew the Covenant could be beaten. The Tarvan Republic was the first to act. They were a small species living in a contested border region. For centuries, they had paid tribute to the Council while dreaming of independence. 3 days after the Battle of the 5 Fronts, they declared themselves free from Covenant authority. The Council ordered the remaining Zathari forces to crush the rebellion. The Zathari refused. Their fleet was in ruins. Their morale was destroyed. They had no stomach for another fight. The order was ignored. The Tarvan government sent a message to Earth. They requested human assistance in defending their territory. They offered friendship and alliance. They asked for protection against Covenant reprisal. Captain Amy Ross received orders to take a task force to the Tarvan homeworld. Her mission was to establish a defensive pact and show that humanity would support species seeking freedom. Amy commanded the UHSV Freedom, a heavy cruiser backed by 12 other ships. When she arrived in Tarvan space, the local population celebrated in the streets. They saw the human ships as symbols of hope. For the first time in their history, they did not have to bow to the Council. The Council sent one final threat. A Zathari fleet of 80 ships jumped to the Tarvan homeworld, ordered to restore Council authority. When they arrived, they found human warships in orbit alongside Tarvan defense platforms. The Zathari fleet commander looked at his sensors and made a quick decision. He remembered what happened to the invasion fleets. He was not about to throw away 80 ships fighting humans over a minor world. He withdrew without firing a shot. Amy sent a message to the Council. The Tarvan Republic is under human protection. Any attack on them will be considered an attack on us. Choose your actions carefully. It was the first crack in the dam. Within a month, 17 more species declared independence. Some sought human protection, others simply refused to follow Council orders. The Covenant was fracturing. High Counselor Vrendas tried to hold everything together. He called emergency sessions. He made promises. He threatened consequences. Nothing worked. The illusion of Covenant power was gone. Species that had obeyed out of fear no longer feared. The Velkin Collective, always practical, approached humanity with a proposal. They had no interest in fighting. They wanted to preserve their trading networks. Ambassador Carl Bennett met with Velkin Trade Minister Zothal at a neutral station. The Velkin were direct. We recognize that the old order is dead. We want to establish relations with humanity before things collapse completely. What are your terms? Carl negotiated carefully. Humanity would guarantee Velkin security and protect their trade routes. In exchange, the Velkin would serve as intermediaries between humans and other species. They would help build a new framework for galactic cooperation. The agreement was signed within a week. The Velkin publicly announced their withdrawal from active Covenant participation. They declared themselves neutral, but aligned with humanity. Other species saw the Velkin deal and wanted similar arrangements. Humanity found itself flooded with requests for alliances, trade agreements, and defensive pacts. Every species wanted to be on the winning side, but humans were selective. They rejected species with histories of oppression or aggression. When the Kravik's hegemony, known for enslaving conquered populations, requested an alliance, humanity publicly refused. Carl Bennett explained the decision in a broadcast to the galaxy. We are not building an empire. We are supporting species that share our values: freedom, equality, mutual respect. If your government oppresses its own people or threatens its neighbors, do not expect our friendship. This shocked many species. They were used to power being immoral. The strong did what they wanted. The weak suffered. Humanity was introducing something new, the idea that power should be guided by principles. Admiral Ben Harrison commanded the human forces working to establish what became known as the Free Systems Alliance. This was not an empire. Member species kept full control of their own territories. What they gained was mutual defense, access to human technology, and a framework for cooperation. The alliance grew quickly. Within 6 months, it included 40 species. Within a year, over 100. Each new member strengthened the network and weakened the old covenant. The Zathari Dominion collapsed completely. Their military defeats had destroyed their credibility. The remaining Zathari commanders turned on each other, fighting for control of what was left. Several Zathari colonies requested admission to the Free Systems Alliance, seeking human protection from their own species. Captain Jack Turner was assigned to negotiate with these Zathari colonies. It was strange work. Only months ago, he had been destroying Zathari fleets. Now he was helping Zathari civilians build new governments. The colony of Zathir Prime was the first to join the alliance. Their leader, a young official named Kethras, addressed Jack directly. "We were taught that strength was everything. That conquest was glorious. Your people proved us wrong. You showed that there is a better way. We want to learn that way. Jack helped them draft a new constitution based on human principles, elections, rights for all citizens, no military aggression. It was revolutionary for the Zathari, a species that had known only military rule. High Counselor Vrendas watched his galaxy fall apart. He made one final attempt to restore order. He gathered the remaining loyalist species and proposed a coordinated offensive against the Alliance. If they could defeat humanity militarily, perhaps they could restore the old system. It was a desperate plan. The species he gathered were not the Covenant's strongest. They were the ones too proud or too foolish to accept change. Together, they could muster perhaps 3,000 ships. It was a fraction of what the original invasion force had been. Ambassador Greg Palmer traveled to Sanctum for a final meeting with Vrendas. The ancient counselor looked old and tired. 12,000 years of Covenant rule were ending on his watch. "You have destroyed everything," Vrendas said bitterly. "The Covenant maintained peace and order for longer than your species has existed. Now there is chaos." Greg felt no sympathy. "You maintained order through fear and domination. Species obeyed because they had no choice. That is not peace. That is oppression." "And what will you build to replace it?" Vrendas asked. "Do you think your alliance will last? Power corrupts. Eventually you will become what we were." "Perhaps," Greg admitted. "But we are going to try something different. We are going to give species real choice, real freedom. If we fail, at least we failed trying to do something better." Vrendas made his final offer. "Join us. Bring humanity into the Covenant as a ruling species. Together we can restore order. You will have power and influence beyond anything you could build alone." Greg stood to leave. "We do not want to rule. We want to cooperate with equals. The old order is finished. You can accept that and work with us to build something better, or you can continue fighting and guarantee your own destruction. The choice is yours." Vrendas refused. He could not accept that 12,000 years of tradition could end so quickly. He ordered the loyalist species to prepare for war. This would be the final battle to determine the galaxy's future. The war never came. The loyalist species, seeing the writing on the wall, refused to follow Vrendas to destruction. One by one, they opened communications with the Free Systems Alliance. They requested terms for joining peacefully. Within 2 months, every species except Vrendas's own had abandoned him. The Council dissolved not with a final battle, but with simple abandonment. The member species walked away and left the old structure to collapse on itself. Vrendas died alone on Sanctum. His species, the original found 20 years had passed since the UHSV Defiant decloaked at Korath Prime. The galaxy was completely different now. The Free Systems Alliance included over 200 species. Almost half the galaxy's population lived under the new system. The rest had formed smaller coalitions, some friendly to humanity, others neutral, a few hostile, but too weak to matter. President Kate Morrison sat in her office on Earth. She had been a young tactical officer on the Defiant when everything changed. Now she led the human government. She had witnessed the beginning of humanity's revelation and had guided her species through the transformation from hidden observers to galactic leaders. The Alliance had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started as a defensive pact had become a true community. Species shared technology freely. Students from 100 worlds studied together at universities across Alliance space. Trade flowed without restrictions. It was the opposite of the old Covenant system. Human technology, once closely guarded, was now taught openly. Quantum slipstream drives were being built on dozens of worlds. Human medical advances had doubled lifespans for many species. Educational programs had created a generation that saw cooperation as normal rather than unusual. But success brought new problems. Some species wanted humanity to take more direct control. They were used to hierarchy and felt uncomfortable with the Alliance's loose structure. Others worried about becoming too dependent on human technology and leadership. Ambassador Ryan Brooks, promoted from his captaincy years ago, handled these concerns daily. He had fired the shot that revealed humanity to the galaxy. Now he spent his days managing the complex politics of keeping 200 species working together. Ryan met with representatives from the Tarvan Republic. They had been the first to join the Alliance and had prospered. Their economy had tripled in size. Their people lived better than ever before. But they had concerns. "Some of our people worry that we have traded Covenant domination for human domination," the Tarvan ambassador said. "They see human technology everywhere, human customs influencing our culture. They wonder if we have truly gained freedom." Ryan understood the concern. "The Alliance only works if every species maintains its own identity. We share technology and provide mutual defense. But we do not dictate how you govern yourselves or live your lives. If you feel humanity has too much influence, we can adjust our programs." The discussion was typical of the challenges facing the Alliance. Building something new was harder than destroying the old system. Every species had different needs and expectations. Finding balance required constant effort. The Krell hegemony remained the largest power outside the Alliance. They controlled a significant region of space and viewed humanity's rise with suspicion. The Krell had stayed neutral during the Covenant's collapse, neither supporting nor opposing the changes. Now they were building their own coalition of species that shared their concerns about human influence. Admiral Lisa Grant, now commanding all Alliance defense forces, watched the Krell build up carefully. She had fought in the wars that destroyed the Covenant. She had no desire to fight another war, but she also knew that peace came from strength, not wishful thinking. The Krell tested the Alliance when they attempted to annex the Miravan Confederation. The Miravans were an Alliance member, a peaceful species that had joined seeking protection from aggressive neighbors. When Krell forces entered Miravan space, the Miravans requested Alliance assistance. President Morrison convened the Alliance Council. This was the body that included representatives from every member species. The decision to intervene militarily required unanimous consent. The debate was intense. Some species argued for immediate action. "If we do not defend the Mirovans, what is the point of the Alliance?" they asked. Others urged caution. "War with the Krell could spread across the entire galaxy. We should seek diplomatic solutions." The vote was close, but it was unanimous. The Alliance would defend its members, but they would also give the Krell one final chance to withdraw peacefully. Lisa took a fleet of 200 ships to Krell space. The fleet represented 30 different species, all working together. It was a powerful demonstration of Alliance unity. She broadcast a message directly to the Krell Emperor. "Withdraw from Miravan territory immediately. The Alliance stands united in defense of our members. We do not seek war, but we will not allow aggression against our allies." The Krell Emperor studied the situation carefully. He saw the united fleet. He remembered what happened to the Covenant when they underestimated humanity. He made the smart choice. The Krell forces withdrew from Miravan space. The crisis ended without bloodshed. The incident had unexpected consequences. Several neutral species saw the Alliance's unity and restraint. They requested membership. The Krell themselves, impressed despite their concerns, eventually approached the Alliance about a non-aggression pact. Captain Danny Cooper commanded the UHSV Horizon, now on a mission to explore regions beyond even human charts. The galaxy they knew was stable. It was time to see what lay beyond the borders. Danny's mission would last 5 years, exploring unknown systems and searching for new life. His crew included members from 20 different species. The chief engineer was Tarvan. The medical officer was Velkin. The science team included humans, Zathari, and half a dozen other species. They worked together seamlessly, a living example of what the Alliance represented. On Earth, Danny's daughter Helen studied at the Galactic Institute. The school had been built 15 years ago and now hosted students from 100 worlds. Helen's classmates included beings from across the galaxy. They learned together, played together, and built friendships that crossed species lines. Helen would grow up in a galaxy completely different from the one her father had known. For her, cooperation between species was normal. The old days of Covenant domination were just history lessons. She would never know a galaxy divided by fear and hierarchy. Ambassador Greg Palmer visited Sanctum for the memorial dedication. The old capital of the Covenant had been transformed into neutral ground. Species gathered there to remember the past and celebrate the present. A monument had been built listing every being who died in the wars that transformed the galaxy. The names were carved in stone. Sathari warriors who had attacked human colonies. Human soldiers who had defended them. Civilians caught in the crossfire. The monument made no distinction between species or sides. They were all victims of a conflict that should not have happened. Greg stood before the monument reading the names. He found Admiral Krathnos listed among the Zathari dead. The Admiral had been his enemy, a warrior who had demanded humanity's submission, but he had also been a product of his culture, a being who genuinely believed in the Covenant's mission. A Zathari approached Greg. It was Kethras, now the elected leader of Zathir Prime. His colony had been among the first to join the Alliance after the Zathari collapse. Ambassador Palmer, Kethras said, "Thank you for coming. It means much to my people that humans remember our dead with respect." Greg nodded. "We fought each other. Many died. But we are building something better from that tragedy. Your people have embraced that opportunity." Kethras looked at the monument. "We were taught that strength was everything. That conquest brought glory. We were wrong. You showed us a better path, not through words, but through actions." President Morrison arrived at the memorial to give a speech. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for the 20th anniversary of First Contact. She stood before them, looking at faces from 100 different species. 20 years ago, she began, humanity revealed itself to a galaxy that did not know we existed. We had a choice. We could have stayed hidden. We could have used our advantages to build an empire through conquest. We chose differently. We chose to stand for principles that went beyond our own species, freedom for all beings, cooperation instead of domination, the right of every sentient species to control its own destiny. Many doubted these principles could survive in reality. They seemed too idealistic. But they did survive, more than survive. They flourished. The Free Systems Alliance is not a human empire. It is a community of equals who chose to stand together. Every member keeps sovereignty over their own affairs. What we share is commitment to defend each other and build a better future. We still face challenges. There are species that prefer the old ways. There will be conflicts and disagreements. But we face them together, as partners and friends. The galaxy will never return to what it was before the Defiant Decloaked. That moment ended one age and began another. What we build in this new age depends on all of us. The crowd erupted in applause. Beings from dozens of species cheered together. 20 years ago, most of them would not have been in the same room. Now they stood united by common purpose. After the ceremony, Greg walked through the memorial gardens with Ryan. They had been at the center of humanity's revelation, witnesses to everything that followed. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had stayed cloaked?" Greg asked. "If you had let the Zathari barrage hit those stations?" Ryan considered the question. Every day, thousands would have died, but humanity would still be hidden. We would still be watching from the shadows. "Do you regret the choice?" "No," Ryan said firmly. "We did the right thing. The galaxy needed to change. The Covenant system was built on oppression and fear. It would have collapsed eventually. We just accelerated the process. Greg smiled and gave it direction. Without human intervention, the collapse could have been much worse. Civil wars, chaos, millions dead. They walked in silence for a moment. Then Ryan spoke again. The hardest part is living up to the example we set. We revealed ourselves by protecting innocence, by standing for principle over self-interest. Now everyone expects us to always do the right thing. That is the burden of leadership, Greg replied. We asked for this responsibility when we stepped into the light. Now we have to carry it. Across the galaxy, on hundreds of worlds, beings looked to the stars with hope. The old fears were fading. A new generation was growing up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal, where different species worked together toward common goals. Where strength was measured not by the ability to dominate, but by the willingness to protect. The Free Systems Alliance was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still injustices, still species that rejected the new ways. But it was better than what had come before. And it had the potential to become something truly remarkable. Captain Amy Ross sat in the command chair of the UHSV Freedom, patrolling the outer regions of Alliance space. Her ship had been there at the beginning, defending the Tarvan Republic. Now it guarded the borders, ensuring that the peace they had built remained secure. Her crew was young, born after the wars. They had grown up in the new galaxy. For them, the Alliance was not revolutionary. It was simply the way things were. Amy thought about the future. What would the galaxy look like in another 20 years? 50 years? 100? Would the Alliance continue to grow and strengthen? Or would it fracture under the weight of its own success? She did not know the answers. No one did. But she knew one thing with certainty. Humanity had changed the galaxy forever. The moment the Defiant decloaked, everything changed. There was no going back. The fire of conflict had forged new empires, but these empires were built on cooperation rather than conquest, built on shared values rather than military might, built on the belief that different beings could stand together as equals. That belief, once proven true, could never be extinguished. The light humanity brought to the galaxy would continue to shine, illuminating a path toward a future better than the past. And that was worth everything they had fought for. Us of the Covenant requested admission to the Alliance. They were accepted after agreeing to democratic reforms. The galaxy had fundamentally changed. The old hierarchy based on military power was gone. In its place was a new system based on voluntary cooperation. Species joined the Alliance because they wanted to, not because they were forced to. Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the Valiant, looking at a star chart showing Alliance territory. It covered nearly half the galaxy, hundreds of species working together. It seemed impossible that this had all happened in less than 2 years. Her communications officer spoke up. Captain, we are receiving a message from Earth. The President wants a status report on our patrol sector. Lisa smiled. Earth was still adjusting to its new role. For 80 years, humanity had hidden. Now they were at the center of galactic civilization. The transition was not easy, but they were managing. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still problems, still species that rejected the new order. But it was better than what had come before, and it had the potential to become something truly great. The fire of war had burned away the old certainties. What rose from the ashes was a new hope, a new possibility, a new empire not built on conquest, but on cooperation. The galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy could not believe what had happened. The Covenant, ruler of the galaxy for 12,000 years, had been defeated. Not just defeated, crushed, humiliated. High Counselor Vrendas addressed the council in emergency session. His voice shook with age and fear. We have made a grave error. We underestimated humanity. We attacked them with overwhelming force and they destroyed us. We must reconsider our position." But it was too late for reconsideration. The damage was done. The illusion of Covenant invincibility had been shattered. Species across the galaxy saw what happened and began to question everything. If the Covenant could be defeated, what did that mean for the old order? If humanity could stand against 15,000 ships and win, what stopped other species from seeking independence? The galaxy was about to change in ways no one could have predicted. The fire of war had burned away the old certainties. What rose from those ashes would be something completely new. Vrendas dismissed the threat. 30 days would prove humanity's weakness. Cut off from the galaxy, they would realize their mistake. They would come back to the council, ready to negotiate on proper terms. Admiral Krathnos began mobilizing his fleets. He did not believe humanity would surrender. He prepared for war, assembling 3 full battle groups at the border of human space. 600 ships total. Once the 30 days passed and humans refused to submit, he would be ready to strike. Greg Palmer returned to Earth and reported to the president. The diplomatic approach had failed, as expected. Now it was time for the next phase of the plan. Humanity had prepared for 80 years. They were ready for what came next. In orbit around Mars, the human defense fleet began final preparations. Weapons were tested, shields were calibrated, crews ran through combat drills. Every ship in the fleet knew what was coming. The galaxy did not know it yet, but they had made a terrible mistake. They had threatened a species that had spent 8 decades preparing for this exact scenario. They believed humans would back down when faced with superior numbers. They were about to learn how wrong they were. To put distance between his ship and the gathering crowd of alien vessels. Every ship in the system was trying to scan them, to understand their technology. Kate had already blocked over 1,000 scan attempts. "Set course for the rendezvous point," Ryan ordered. "We need to meet with the fleet and coordinate our response." As the Defiant jumped away, leaving the stunned galaxy behind, Ryan thought about what came next. Humanity had prepared for this day. They had built colonies, constructed warships, and developed weapons that the galaxy had never seen. They had planned for the moment when they would reveal themselves. But plans and reality were different things. The galaxy would not welcome humanity with open arms. The Covenant ruled through control. They would see humans as a threat. There would be demands, ultimatums, and probably war. Ryan was ready. So was humanity. They had been ready for 80 years. The galaxy was about to learn that the darkness held secrets. And some secrets, once revealed, changed everything.